becoming a teacher. Someone said something to me, I think it was my first week several years ago. They asked me, do you think teaching is a 9-to-5 job? I didn't answer the question because, it's not. It's just simply not. Again, I stepped into a classroom with no teaching experience. The students, they were a difficult crowd, but I went about trying to teach them the way I was taught. You sit there quietly, both feet on the floor, take notes, sit up straight, and it didn't work. I was not a good enough teacher to pull that off. I actually went back and I was able to find the first American history test that I ever administered. So, the risk of my philosophy was if I let them take notes in class and tell them that they could take notes or they could use their notes on the test, then they would behave perfectly. And I was amazed when I found out that they didn't behave perfectly and they didn't do excellent on the test. And the scary thing is all this made sense at the time. I've since read a quote that any of us can become rigid when we enter a situation and our emotional or intellectual growth stops short of where we're trying to go. And that's the one thing that I take from this experience is that it can almost happen. It can almost happen at any time. That's probably something that scared me. That was a fear throughout the entire semester. The first study guide I ever created is here. This was for a final exam. I'm just going to go through it quickly. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to laugh. It's okay because I brought some before and after samples here. So again, my philosophy was give them something up, tell them that they can take the notes, use the notes on the test, whatever, and it'll work. That's all I had to do. If I knew the content, as long as I knew the content and used these methods, that it was going to work fine. Throughout this past year, I've done many things. First, I decided to start kids off with a vocabulary list, work them up, maybe even supply them notes. My view of how to accommodate diverse learners has just grown tremendously, and I hope that that's one thing that just continues and continues to grow. I prepare kids with maybe an open note quiz. I would check their notebooks, making sure they had everything. The notebook is something that I like because here you had something where they would grade themselves. This is what over here what they're expected to have in their notebook. They would grade themselves, and then I'd grade it with them. And that's something that I found. That's a system that I want to continue to use in the future. But this is something that I never would have thought of several years ago. Never. And yet it's so simple. And I'm happy to say that my new study guides this semester improved, where instead of just giving them blank pages, I'd ask them a series of questions and stuff. And they would know that they would probably see these questions again. And furthermore, these were questions that we've gone over and over and over throughout the class. All right? So let me speed this up a little bit. I think we've seen enough of that. I want to go now to basically the page, kind of like my special page. When I was in school, technology was watching the Grapes of Wrath in 1776 in an overhead. And whatever the teacher wrote on the overhead, you copied. I came up with something I decided, however, from the digital humanities class, is that technology, more than any theory of teaching or learning, has actually brought democracy to the classroom. Something that really, really changed the way I did this, went about all this, was, I believe, a video that we watched on the little boy building a fire. Now I have it in here, but it made me, I apologize. That video made me realize that it's not a question of whether or not to use technology to help these kids learn. The fact is they're already using it. And if you don't supply them with the tools to learn, they're going elsewhere. And it's not should we do this, it's more or less facing the facts that this is already what's going on. The social education magazines also helped me tremendously throughout the semester. These are things that I looked in, and I got some really good ideas for the reasoning through writing and also the action research project, which I designed both of those assignments to work in tandem with one another, to allow kids to do research. One of the projects, I'm sorry, for the action research project, I had kids create a PowerPoint. I gave them a rubric, and they were to create a PowerPoint and tell their own visual narrative of this major civil rights event. Now, two of the kids that I chose their examples here. This is what they came up with. Both students were from low to lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Okay? One of the students did not have a computer in her home. And I was going to put which one that was, but I don't think it matters, because as you guys see, both these PowerPoints are excellent. The kids managed to go through and tell the story either of the sit-ins or Brown versus the Board of Education. And they really got into it. I mean, I was amazed. I handed the students a rubric, and literally they took the rubric, looked at it for like 2 seconds, set it down, and started typing right away. I mean, I would have been holding it upside down, right, so which way does this go, and everything. And they went right to work. It was amazing. And the fact that one of these kids didn't even have a computer in her home, doesn't have the chance to practice this, tells me more than anything that kids, they're finding a way to go do this stuff. Somehow, somewhere, she's learning to do these things. And I think that this goes towards what I'm saying, that this really, I think technology has brought democracy to the classroom like never before.